CountryWide Connect, connecting farmers and growers to what they need to know to grow. Your daily innovative rural show with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perry-Lang.
Well, g'day everyone. Welcome to CountryWide Connect for the 2nd of June. Yes, the second day of winter. I can tell you, if you're anywhere near Canterbury, you won't believe it's the second day of winter. It's been so jolly warm over the long weekend. It was absolutely fantastic. But anyway, hope that was good wherever you were for Moving Day. I know we had a tremendous amount of rain up the west coast of the South Island into Nelson, Golden Bay in particular, and then heading up through the Naki and up into Northland. So I hope it didn't affect your move too much and you managed to get where you needed to get. I saw a few interesting Snapchats and videos, some Facebook posts from people very excited moving off their farm for the last time, moving to a new farm for the first time. I did it a couple of times myself, and it is a pretty exciting time. A little bit of nervousness for everyone as well, but hey, that's what Moving Day is all about. So I hope you managed to get to where you needed to get to, and everything you bought stayed in one piece, unloading all those silage wagons and whatever. So yeah, she's a busy old time. Anyway, speaking of busy old time, love to hear from you on the show. Connect at country-wide.co.nz. You can see I'm sitting here by myself today. No Sarah. Sarah is having a very well-deserved week's leave. Hopefully, that means I don't get too many emails from her, although I've already had a couple today. Sarah, if you're watching and listening, go on leave. Go on. Just have a break. It'll be good. Absolutely. You need it. Leading up to a very busy week next week, of course, at Field Days, Mystery Creek Field Days in Hamilton. So really looking forward to heading up there. On the show today, though, because we've got a full old show, so I think we might just kick into it. Just before 1 o'clock, we're going to finish the show as we do on every Tuesday with our good friend Tony T from Blue Skies Weather. What can we expect for winter? Yes, we have got to that point, but we're going to have a chat to him. Just before that, actually, we're going to have a chat. This is a very important podcast brought to us by Anne Lee, brought to us also by our good friends at Scullerup. Anne Lee spoke to South African dairy farmer Georgie Muller, dairy consultant Steve Moss, and veterinarian Andrew Morphew about South Africa's battle with foot and mouth. A very interesting and timely discussion for us. And there's some really good stuff in there, and I think it really does let us know just how serious foot and mouth is. And if you've been watching the Dutton Ranch, you'll see an interesting depiction of foot and mouth in that show as well. If you haven't seen it, definitely find it. There's some. It was really interesting, that one. Just before 12:15, we're going to finally get hold of Nathan Guy. He's the chair of the Meat Industry Association. They've found a new CEO, and he's also the Agricultural Special Trade Envoy. At 12 o'clock, we're going to talk to Greg Mirams, founder and managing director of Techion Group, hidden impact of facial egg counts in beef cattle, and some new high-resolution imagery technology that's going to be brought to us by our good friends at SenseHub by MSD, our tech segment. At 1:45, I will also do news at 12 o'clock, brought to us by Pharm. Richard Badley will be doing our news. At 11:45, Tim McCready, Director of Business and Entrepreneurship at the Asia New Zealand Foundation. Yes, the Indians are coming. There's a whole lot of them coming here in the next 10 of India's biggest entrepreneurs, ag entrepreneurs, going to be here for the next couple of weeks. So we'll talk to them about that. We're also going to have a chat to Nicola McKee. Yes, going to catch up with Nicola McKee. She's the Associate Justice Minister about the changes to the firearms license regulations. A new organisation is being set up. $44 million was allocated in the budget to this, and it is going to take the licensing away from the police. Why is that happening? It's quite interesting. 11:15, Shane McManaway, chairman of the Xander McDonald Award, also chair of the Future Farmers and Royal Rapid Dairy Farmers. So I thought we'd have a chat to him. But right now, we are going to have a chat to Zoe Reece, CEO and founder of Aura Farm. There are some new rules coming in for hemp. So I thought we would have a bit of a yarn about that. Zoe, welcome to the show. Really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for your time on the show today. What is going on with this, and what are these new rules that we're looking at for the hemp industry?
No, thank you so much for having me, Cody, and it's an honour to be here. But so recently we've had some new hemp regulations that came into effect last week on the 28th of May. Now, these regulations make it reduce a lot of that regulatory cost and burden for hemp farmers, but also for anyone wanting to supply low THC product to the medicinal cannabis framework and processes in New Zealand, which is just absolutely fantastic and should help boost the export industry as well. Sorry.
Yeah, have a drink, Zoe. Look, you cut your teeth in the States actually on the US on that, and they've got a booming cannabis industry as there. Well, what sort of lessons and things that you learnt there are you bringing through to your New Zealand operation?
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I cut my teeth over there, and it was amazing because each state that we operated in had their own regulations and was like a little mini country. So I was the director of engineering for the largest cannabis company in the world. I started with them when they were a startup. So I took them from 16 facilities in 6 states to 83 facilities in 16 states operational in under 2 years. And the need for industry cohesion is one of the lessons learnt, as well as having a solid regulatory foundation, which is what we do have here in New Zealand. Now, there are 3 different industries or segments. There's your adult use, your medicinal cannabis, and then your hemp-derived cannabinoid ones. And so the hemp industry, that's a lot lower barriers to entry over in the US. The adult use is not here in New Zealand, and that's not something we have interest in. And then the medicinal cannabis is what we've got there. But I think the regulatory standardization and is definitely a big one.
Okay, so what rules have changed then since May the 28th? What have been the changes, and why is it so important for these changes to have been made?
So the major changes are that anyone can now cultivate hemp plants. And so hemp is defined as anything, the definition in New Zealand is that hemp is defined as anything with less than 1% THC. Now this is major, and then that can then be supplied to the medicinal cannabis industry if that's a pathway that the plants are going to go. Now, at the moment, or prior to the 28th, if you were to grow low THC outdoors, then for the medicinal cannabis industry, then that would cost you around $10,000 a year just in the licenses alone. And you'd need to go through a large amount of oversight from the Ministry of Health. From now moving forward, this will mean that anyone for the Medicinal Cannabis Agency growing low THC hemp, as well as any other farmer wanting to grow hemp for seed or hemp for fibre, are now able to do that by just notifying MPI and notifying the police. So it's going to remove a lot of those barriers to entry for farmers to get into the segment, and also hopefully create a lot more innovation and another primary industry that New Zealand can get behind. So
for people that don't fully understand it, and thank you for clarifying the 3 classes. So hemp under 1% THC, but then medicinal cannabis is higher than that, right? So what are the rules applying then to if you want to grow medicinal cannabis? Has that changed?
The medicinal cannabis regulations haven't changed. And just to clarify, in the hemp and cannabis plants, there are over 140 different cannabinoids that we know about. And so THC is just one of them. So medicinal cannabis encapsulates all of those 140. It's just that it also has the potential to have THC in the formulations or some of the products. Doesn't mean that it needs to have THC. So regulations around growing THC for the medicinal cannabis for the medicinal cannabis industry, that has not changed. And another thing that has not changed is if you're extracting the flower, then it must be done under the medicinal cannabis license and agency. Whereas if you're using the seeds or the fiber, then that's still then that goes under the food regulations or other regulations there that doesn't need to be processed by someone with a medicinal cannabis license.
Okay, so keep going. Sorry, no, keep going.
I was just going to say as well that this doesn't change the food regulations and requirements around the maximum amount of cannabinoids in those, or around any vet products either.
So that's interesting. And just to clarify as well, it's my understanding that if you're growing hemp, that can be used for, you talked about the fiber and all sorts of things, but it can't be used for animal feed as well, can it? So that hasn't changed?
That has not changed, and that comes under the veterinary regulations.
Yeah, exactly. So what then? So obviously, if anyone can grow hemp now, albeit with the telling the police, telling MPI, that would lead to, I would imagine, a significant boost in hemp production in New Zealand going forward. Probably a lot more export opportunities.
Definitely, I hope so. Now, even though this product cannot be used for hemp for animals in New Zealand or for food and supplements in New Zealand, what it does do is it gives New Zealand access to North America as well as Europe, where in Europe hemp-derived products fall under novel foods. And so there is a massive and booming opportunity for New Zealand products, opportunity to then add on another layer of product offering through hemp and into those markets.
Yeah, okay. So what that would also mean, I guess, is, as you said, a lot more innovation. Just give the listeners, viewers, an idea of what sort of products you're talking about, the innovation that is possible.
Well, I'm a structural engineer, and a couple of years ago, one of my structural engineering professors from when I was at Auckland Uni approached me about they were looking to do a master's student was looking to do a comparison of if it was possible to replace rebar and concrete with hemp fibers and the strength there. There's been a study come out a year or so ago where someone was able to use to treat the core of medicinal or of the hemp plant in a certain way, and they created a battery that was more efficient than lithium batteries out there. So we just don't know how many different things we can do with hemp yet.
Fascinating. So obviously a change of this magnitude, as I said, will probably lead to a lot of innovation, a lot of growth and when you talk about those sort of products, no one's, I suppose, going to, well, you imagine only limited by your own imagination, right? And as you said, you're an engineer, so it's basically, we will see a lot of innovation going forward in this.
I hope so. There is so much opportunity, and it'll be fantastic to see New Zealand get that number 8 wire mentality behind this new opportunity that there is in market, as well as that the plant itself has amazing carbon sequestering properties. It's 2 to 3 times more efficient than the equivalent area of forestry. So would love to see a lot more carbon registration happening there. And
as there is demand around the world for hemp-derived products, right? So this is potentially a large export market for us.
Yeah, yes, there is. It's a booming industry overseas for things like dog treats and pets. I think there was a study a couple of years ago where 80% of dog owners in America had, in the 12 months previous to the survey being done, used hemp-derived products with their dog. So that market itself is massive across Europe and North America, as well as a number of other opportunities in the market for nutraceutical and supplement markets too.
All right. Hey, Zoe, fascinating stuff. Really appreciate your time on the show today. Thank you very, very much for coming on and explaining this to. You can certainly see where crop farmers will be looking to supplement or put this into their rotation, I suspect, hemp now, and making the opportunity to use the product, the natural product, the fiber, whatever it is, for plenty of basic operations. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, Zoe Reece there. Yes, founder and CEO of Pharm. Hemp, eh? I might talk to my mate Blocker about that. He's been growing hemp for a wee while. I'll see what he makes of these new regulations. I know he was very frustrated by the amount of hoops he had to jump through to grow a couple of hectares of hemp. So maybe we'll get him on the show later in the week. Right now, waiting on the line, I can see him resplendent in his lovely yellow shirt there. Shane McManaway, MNZM. Yes, he got a gong a few years ago. Chair of Growing Future Farmers, founder and chair of the Xander McDonald Award, but Wairarapa farmer. G'day, Shane. Welcome to the show, mate. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Andy. Great to be here.
Let's talk about farming first and foremost. Wairarapa, did you guys get any? It's been a bit dry in your neck of the woods. Did you get any of that rain over the weekend?
No, it's been incredibly dry. I think we've had about 5 or 6 mils for the month of May, Andy. Quite bizarre weather, to be quite honest. It's 18 degrees out there now. Yesterday was about 19. It's just been day after day. You go outside and can't believe that we're in June. It's quite amazing.
I can't believe we're in June full stop, but I also can't believe we're in June with 21 degrees like it was here on Saturday or Sunday, I should say. Certainly unusually warm. We're going to talk some weather later in the show with our good friend Tony from Blue Skies. But are you a little bit worried, Shane, with the potential El Nino coming through? Are you getting a bit concerned?
Yeah, Andy, we are. I guess we're sort of mindful of it. We can't do much about it other than prepare for it. We've got a good wedge of feed ahead of us now. These conditions have allowed us to get a bit of a bank of feed ready for the winter. We've got 5 big pivot irrigators, so if the worst comes to the worst and doesn't get too cold, we can tip a bit of water on, but that's problematic, as you know, once ground temperatures drop. So, no, I think we're not worried, but we're mindful of what could be up ahead.
Yeah, okay. I know beautiful property you've got there, and I know it'll be looking an absolute picture, Shane. Definitely will be. And you were one of the finalists at the Beef and Lamb Awards. Didn't quite get the big gong this time, but nice to be recognised for your farming operation.
Yeah, absolutely, Andy. We were pleased to be finalists, and all credit and congratulations to Lone Star. They picked up the title. They've done some great work over many years. But I guess it was just the fact that we're all there chasing the same sort of desire, and that's to get to make sure that our people on our farms are being well looked after, to make sure that our cultures within our operations is such that people want to, 1, be farming, 2, want to be working for us, and 3, we want to make sure that we help grow them as people and allow them to either prosper within our business or at some stage, if they move into somebody else's, they're well prepared.
Funny you should say that, Shane, because that segues nicely into my next comment or next topic. You're the chair of Growing Future Farmers. One of the things that I know you're very passionate about is bringing young people into and through the agricultural system. Just talk to us a little bit about Growing Future Farmers, what it is and how it works.
Yeah, Andy, I climbed into the chair seat at the beginning of this year, and very proud to be part of Growing Future Farmers. It's something that I'm passionate about, bringing young people through. Growing Future Farmers is about getting capable young people onto farms and giving them the skills and the discipline, I guess, and confidence to build a career in agriculture. It's a really neat program because the trainers are farmers. It gives them an opportunity for a grassroots learning onto the farm. not sitting in a classroom all day, every day learning. It's learning the skills out in the paddock, the disciplines of everything from basically right through to having maybe being in your first home away from your own home, making sure that you look after the place, keep the place tidy, keep it neat. Most of these guys in the sheep, certainly in the sheep and beef area of Growing Future Farmers, are very much committed to their dogs, and they get a lot of support and help around that. But look, it's a really neat program, and as I say, it's growing in stature in so many ways. About 160 odd students through a year. It allows them to get their NZQA 2, 3, and then on into 4. And we've now got a pilot program operating in dairy. So we're broadening our scope. And I went to a meeting this last week here in the Wairarapa, information evening. It was fabulous to see the young people that turned up there who are really keen to get into agriculture. They see it as a really good career move, Andy.
So Shane, what's the age group of people that you're looking at? Is it school leavers?
Yeah, school leavers upwards to 20. I don't know that there's a cap past that. If somebody's super keen just beyond that, I don't think there's a ceiling on that. I could be corrected, but largely people leaving school. And it's really interesting that quite a few of the people that are coming forward wanting to seek information about getting into Growing Future Farmers are coming from the urban sector, which is, and also a lot of young ladies coming forward as well. It's really good, a really good mix right across. And they're sort of seeing agriculture not only as a place where they may be able to get out and have the love of animals and being out in the wide open spaces. They also see an opportunity to use their technical skills, with things like now halter floating around, drones. We spray some of our farms here with the drones these days. Who would have thought? And, these young people, they lap all that stuff up. So a lot of opportunity for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, it's a whole new world, Shane, from when you and I are out there with a grubber grubbing thistles, right? I tried to avoid that as much as I could, to be honest. So this program, though, and so you might have said this and I might have missed it. Is it a program where people come in to the program and then you find them placements, or are they already placed on farms and they take part in the program? Which way round does it work?
They come in and we line them up with a farm trainer. A lot of effort goes into that process, Andy, because this is a really important time in the life of a young person, just leaving school, going out to a property. It's quite foreign for some of them, so it's important that our trainers are ideally suited, and we're very lucky that they are. The initiation program that they go through is very, very rigid. We've got a fantastic management team headed up by Wendy Paul at Growing Future Farmers. The level of professionalism that I'm seeing in and around the placement and how they connect young students with the right farmers is quite incredible. And I guess this goes back, if I just could mention, this goes back to how this thing kicked off with Tam and Dan Jex Blake out of Gisborne saw a need here to get young people into agriculture. So a lot of credit to them to get us to where we've got to today. But as I say, our focus on making sure that they're placed well and keeping in contact with these young people as they go through this learning phase is critical to the success. Just to answer your question, do we find them placements? Yes, we pretty much always try and find them a job out the other end, and we've been pretty successful to date. Yeah,
okay. And is it a yearly intake? If someone's watching this, or you think, hey, I've got a young kid that needs to do this, how do they get involved to Growing Future Farmers?
Well, they can go onto the website, Growing Future Farmers. Yes, today is the start of this year's intake, Andy. So I would encourage anybody watching, if they've got young ones themselves leaving college, thinking about what they might go and do, or if they know somebody who's really, really keen to get into farming, to make sure they're aware of it. It can be life-changing for most people.
Interesting. You said there's a lot of urban kids coming through. That's an interesting dynamic, and I suppose you're doing a little bit of work on that. So it would be interesting, some of those kids coming out to the farms for the first time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And talking to the ones that were coming out of the city, out of Wellington, actually, last week at the information day, and I was chatting to them about what sort of brought them to Growing Future Farmers. largely their love for animals and their love for being in the outdoors. That's probably the thing that came through the loudest. But also they can see that there is a real opportunity in this, in other aspects, not only on farm but off farm. You know, they could go on to be a field representative, Andy, for one of the supplier companies, and who knows, they might even be a host on a farming program.
They could be, although you'd do a good job at it, Shane, to be honest. We might have to get you to sub in occasionally. Hey, the other thing, just quickly before we go, but you're also chair of the Xander McDonald Awards, founder and chair of Xander McDonald Awards, right? Just quickly, talk to us a little bit about why this award is so important and this year's winners.
Yeah, Andy, it's the Xander McDonald Award now it's coming into its 12th year. We kicked off in 2014. 2013, my very good friend Xander McDonald was tragically taken in an accident out west. He was a big operator, owned a number of cattle stations out west, and unfortunately, at an early age, had a very, very tragic accident. Because he displayed some magnificent attributes as a person, not only as a farmer, but just as a genuinely great human being, I thought it would be appropriate to name it after him and then go out and hunt for young people across Australasia who had those same attributes and bring them forward. It's quite amazing. 12 years on, Andy, we've now got some of the best and the finest that have come through. Many of them you would know. It's Australasia's most prestigious agricultural award. And something that I'm incredibly proud of. And, you know, some of the winners that have come through, you know, it's quite amazing where they crop up now in the agricultural scene 12 years on. Some of them are leading good, big organisations, doing some great things in this sphere.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's two winners, right? There's a New Zealand winner and an Australian winner, which is unusual. Probably one of the only awards that I know of that does something like that.
That was born out of COVID, to be honest, because when we got into because we get together every year in March with a conference, and it was initiated, I guess, with a conference that I started putting together back in 2005, which is called the Platinum Primary Producer Group, the Triple P Group. About 150 odd farmers from both sides of the Tasman come together for about 3 days, and so they were the basis. And I guess the mentors for this award, and have gone on to be the mentors, mainly made up of some, you know, the cream of the crop of farmers across two countries, and connected also with the captains of industry. When COVID hit, we really had a situation where we either didn't do it for a year, or we had two winners, and we decided to make it two winners, and we've done that, and we'll carry on with that now, Andy. It's really, really good. Both, it's working well. I mean, it allows obviously us to have a broader spread across the two countries, but it means that we can get the two winners on each either side of the Tasman to see what's going on.
Yeah, fascinating. This year's winners, Bryce Nayland from Australia and Khan Diwali, is it? Yeah,
Khan's out of the Waike, South Auckland area, doing a magnificent job there. He's in the sort of horticultural area, and Reece is again a standout out of Australia, working in sort of that horticultural field. But you know, exemplary operators, and it just amazes me how smart some of these young people are coming through. But one of the great things about the award, even if you don't win and you become part, you know, you apply for it and become part of the judging process, and then become part of I call it the Xander family, then basically you're a winner right from the get-go. So, you know, coming first is outstandingly good, but just being part of it has created a lot of opportunity for so many.
And again, how do people enter, or what's the criteria?
Well, the criteria, 21 to 32 years of age, Andy. You go in and on our website, on the Xander McDonald website, and you apply. Applications will open in around September, and we do the judging this side of Christmas, and we'll announce the winners next year at our conference on the Gold Coast, sometime, I think, first or second week of March.
All right. Absolutely. I think It's a great program, and I know you're very proud of it, Shane. Really appreciate your time on the show today. As always, we'll get you on more often to have a wee bit of a yarn. But nice to chat and good to catch up at the Out the Gate conference. Was it last week or the week before now? Gee, time's going fast. Can you believe it's June already? It's just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, what a great conference that was. That Beef and Lamb should be very proud of what they put on there. It was great to showcase agriculture across our nation, and especially when it's going so well at the moment. Let's celebrate our successes.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks very much, Shane McManaway there. We will catch up again.
Great. Thanks for having me, Andy.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lamb.
All righty, welcome back to the show. Well, as we've already said, and we all know about, last week was budget week. And one announcement that caught my eye, I was very interested in this, was 44.9 million in the budget to overhaul New Zealand's firearms regulatory system. The funding will establish the Firearms Safety and Education New Zealand, an independent regulator that takes administrative and licensing functions away from the police, while creating a new licensing review committee. To talk about this, the lady behind it, the Honourable Nicole McKee, the Associate Justice Minister. Nicole, g'day, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for your time. $44.9 million. This is quite a significant amount of funding. What's the problem you are actually trying to solve here? Why was this necessary?
Well, thanks for having me, Andy. It's always great to be on to talk about firearms especially. And what was the problem that we were trying to fix? A really old Arms Act, the 1983 Arms Act, that had been tinkered with so many times that it no longer made sense. And the latest iterations, the 2019 and 2020 amendments that were made, actually just made the whole Arms Act a bit of a nonsense, really. So we've had to come in, rewrite the entire Act, get rid of some of those things in there that were laborious, filled with regulations, stop people moving forward, and put some common sense back into the Arms Act. The $44.9 million that we've been awarded is to implement the Arms Act once it passes through all its final stages, which will hopefully be in a couple of months' time. And that includes creating a separate regulator from New Zealand Police. As you mentioned, the Firearms Safety and Education New Zealand. They will take all the administrative and regulatory roles away from police, leaving police to deal only with the enforcement of the legislation. And of course, the implementation of the new Firearms Licensing Review Committee, which will be a place that licence holders can go to initially to seek, I guess, help if they feel that they have been suspended or revoked for a reason that they don't think is fair. They will be able to go to the Licensing Review Committee in the first instance before going to court, which is where they have to go right now.
Okay, a lot of people would want to know then why it was important, or why did you decide to take or to create the Firearms Safety and Education New Zealand and take those functions away from the police? A lot of people would, listening to this, would potentially think, well, isn't that a police role?
Some would say that it is, but I would argue that over especially the last decade, we have had a huge loss of trust and confidence in New Zealand Police to run the regulatory side and administration side of firearms ownership within New Zealand. What a lot of licensed firearm owners were telling me is that they felt like they were being treated as criminals, like they were a terrorist in the waiting. And that's not how we have run firearms in New Zealand. We have lost respect for the licensed firearm owners as a general community, and that's quite sad, and it's also frightening from my perspective, because that community, what was 250,000 of us, we are the eyes and ears of licensed firearm owners throughout New Zealand, and we did have a relationship with police where we could approach them if we had concerns about a particular individual. We've lost that. What I would like to see is New Zealand Police look to enforce the rules that are put there in place for them to enforce, and have that that administration and regulation taken away from them so that they can solely concentrate on that enforcement. And with the new regulator, we start to treat licensed firearm owners again as the customer and also treat them with a bit of respect. This way we can start to re-establish those relationships that we had with the regulator, so we can start getting those communications flowing backwards and forwards again between the licensed community and the administrator of the Act.
Yeah, a lot of those changes came in after the terrorist attack here in Christchurch in 2019. You mentioned 2019 and 2020. Was there an overreach, do you think, in that legislation?
I think there was an absolute overreach. I think it went too far, and I think it went too fast as well. One, we did not include those 250,000 people in the conversation. Things were done to them, not with them. And second of all, we've lost that trust and confidence between the regulator and the LFOs. When we heard about Tarrant frequenting a club members actually getting hold of police at the time and nothing happening about the complaints or concerns that were raised about Tarrant at that time, we need to actually get to a point again where we can raise concerns and they will be acted on. So police are not completely out of the scene. They are there for enforcement. There will be parts of the Act where they will have an integral part in it. So, for example, they will still be able to suspend firearms licenses on the spot. Say they go into somebody's home for a domestic violence issue, for example, they will still be able to issue those suspension notices right there and then. So they will still have that ability to do the enforcement and whatnot. But when it comes to having given that suspension, it then falls on the regulator to work through the process of whether or not that becomes a revocation, for example.
Will the licence process change under this? I've had personal experience, not myself, but family and other friends and colleagues who have gone through the process of reapplying for their firearms license, and I've seen the form. It's an absolute nightmare. Will this alter in this process?
It's already in the process of being altered. I've actually asked the Firearms Safety Authority, which they're still known as right now, to have a look at that 40-page document. They have gone through it, they've assessed it, they find that there are certain things in there that don't need to be in there or don't need to be asked multiple times in different ways. So at the moment, all forms are being gone through one by one, because once we change the Firearms Safety Authority to Firearms Safety and Education New Zealand, we actually need to go through these forms, not only to change the letterheads as they come up, but also have a look what's in them in regard to the legislative changes we're making as well. There's over 55 policy changes within the new Arms Act, so we've got to make sure all forms are up to date. We've already started on the reapplication for a firearms license, or the new application for a firearms license, the 40 pages, and it will be reduced. They're working on that now. But more importantly, we're also looking at all the other forms and whether or not there's an overstatement in box ticking and form filling that is currently underway. I think there is. I think it's too much, and we need to have a good look at that.
Well, I would hope so. One in particular in there is the requirement, if you've been overseas for more than, I think, three months, to get, and in particular, I know this because it had to get sign off from the UK police that you hadn't been, you hadn't come to their attention while you were there. That is, to deal with the bureaucracy in the middle of the night was almost impossible. It took so long. That was a really particular problem. I don't know if you're aware of that part of it.
I am, and I think that this is the balance that we've got to try and find. If you look at Tarrant, for example, he'd gone overseas, he'd visited Middle Eastern countries, and he was radicalised over there, and no one asked him. No one asked, where have you been? What have you been doing? What have you been seeing? But then on the flip side of that, I'm aware of a person who's in the New Zealand Army territorials, then went over to Afghanistan and was asked the same thing. Can you please provide information that you haven't been in trouble over there? Yeah. And he went back and said, would you like me to get a reference from the Taliban? I mean, it goes from one extreme to the other. So I think that eventually we need to find this middle ground where we do ask the questions about where you've been and how long you've been overseas. But do we really need to go as far as getting these particular bits of information for every single country that you've been to? And that will become something that the Pharm Safety and Education New Zealand will look at as they start to operationalise the Act itself once it comes in.
Okay, a couple more questions before we go then. You did say that if these changes didn't come about or the $44 million wasn't put in, then it would cost a firearms holder another 6.5 times to get his licence. A lot of people would say we live in a country of user pays. Why are the taxpayers on the hook then to make it, to subsidise firearm owners?
I think it's really important that we make sure that those that do have firearms are able to stay within a niche where we know where they are and we know that they are fit and proper people. The reality is we are in a cost of living crisis. Everybody knows this. And quite often when you go and get a firearms license, you'll hear others in the room say that they want a license because they want to go hunting. They want to go hunting because they want to put food on the table. They want to do it this way because they can't afford to go to the supermarket. So if we start pricing people out of being able to afford to get a firearms license, price them out of being able to afford to comply, then why would they? And why should they? They just want to go out into the bush and hunt and put food on the table. And this is where we have a potential problem, where firearms end up in what we call the grey market, where they're being used legally, but they're being held illegally. And then we lose track of them and the people and whether or not they are continuing to be fit and proper. So there is a balance where, yes, there is a portion of it that should be paid by the licensed firearm owners, but we also need to keep in mind that those licensed firearm owners are already paying for security, for gun safes, for making sure that everything is kept safe and secure in their homes. And so on balance, we need to make sure that there is a fairness, that we don't price licensed firearm owners out of compliance and out of being legal, but we also maintain that there is a public safety aspect of having controls around firearm ownership, and therefore the public should pay for part of that as well.
Okay, so just the final question then is about this. I mean, you mentioned it in passing, and I just want to go back to it. The Firearms Licensing Review Committee, for just over $4 million put in. Who will be on that committee? How does that work?
So the Firearms Licensing Review Committee will be made up of a panel of any 3 members at any one time. We're looking to appoint 6 members, and we're about to go out and ask for people to nominate. One must be a lawyer that has at least 5 years experience in law. Another one must be somebody from the firearms owning community, hopefully with some safety experience with them as well. And the third one is somebody that will have some sort of regulatory administrative experience as well, so that we end up with people who know about firearms, who know about the law and know about the regulatory services as well. And those 3 people will be able to hear on the papers any queries from those that have been suspended or revoked in the first instance. So you'll be able to apply to them. Your papers will be looked at, and they will either meet you through a Zoom meeting. There'll be no buildings or no hearing rooms to go to. It'll all be done on Zoom, or you could just do it by letter and on the papers. And if you find that the decision made by that review committee is not to your liking, then you'll have the ability to go to the district court to review. But what we have at the moment is New Zealand Police make the decision on whether or not to suspend or revoke. And if you appeal that, then you go to those same people to hear whether or not they've made a mistake.
Yeah.
So marking their own homework. This takes that out, gives you a whole new panel of independent people away from the regulator who will look at it in fairness and give you a just decision.
Do you have any idea how many of the appeals you would expect in a year?
At this stage, we don't know, because it's going to be a whole new entity. We're going to watch it over the first 12 months and see what happens. We do suspect there might be a bit of an uplift straight away, where those that have been revoked by New Zealand Police will look to appeal through the Firearm Safety Review Committee. But we're just going to play that by ear at this stage and see whether or not there is a big uptake.
All right, Nicole McKee, Associate Justice Minister, fascinating one to watch. Thank you so much for your time, and we will talk to you again. Time frame?
We hope to have the bill become an act around end of July, August. Well, it's got to happen before September, right? So August at the very, very latest, in order for us to start getting the implementation underway before we head into the election campaign time. So it's got to be done before September. I'm hoping it's going to happen in August.
All right. Thanks very much, Nicole McKee. Certainly a lot of things happening before the election. Look, I think this is fantastic here. Legal firearm owners don't get made to feel like criminals, which is pretty much the way you feel quite a bit of the time.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp. CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp.
Hi team, the latest rural insights out now from Bailey's. Look, fantastic momentum in the dairy industry at the moment. Commodity prices are fantastic, interest rates are down, stable government, all the stars are aligning for this year, so why wouldn't you want to be involved? We're seeing record sales for the first part of the season, so talk to your local Bailey's agent and they'll give you the full insight of what's been happening in the last few months.
We're a fourth generation business, starting with my grandparents.
In our family, innovation has been a mindset. We're always looking to adopt technology that allows us to apply our management practices with as much precision as we possibly can.
You can't execute this vision without good support around you, so VNZ have been there right from the start.
And we're very confident for the future because we have a very strong governance team, and we include the VNZ in that governance team to help us find a way to achieve our business goals.
Working the land is all go, all the time. Nature waits for no one. So for workwear that can weather the weather, we got you. Shop offers in store, online, Farmlands Pro, or with your rep.
Our first thoughts when Sarah introduced it to us, I thought game changer in almost every possible way, from cost savings, environmental impact, the precision and accuracy of just keeping everything efficient. Time saving too, really. We are now reassessing our farming business because we have potential to be more productive. We can now look at increasing our stocking rate because we can now put fertiliser where it needs, which means in return we get more grass. It really allows us to optimise nutrient management. We can use the tools to map out and just put the nutrients exactly where it's needed.
The sense to accurately detect she is on heat. The sense to know she is unwell. The sense that you can hold in your hand. It just makes sense.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp.
Alrighty, welcome back. It is 11:46 on CountryWide Connect. Love to hear from you. Send us an email, connect@country-wide.co.nz. Any thoughts on the show? Any content? Any thoughts of stories or issues we should be covering? Love to hear from you. Right, we all know that Field Days is kicking off next week. Very much looking forward to that. And one of the discussions we've been having with the guys in Field Days is the amount of international delegations coming across to Field Days, the biggest event in Australasia, the biggest agricultural event in Australasia. A major arrival of an Indian agribusiness delegation is arriving fairly shortly. To discuss this, we've got the Director of Business and Entrepreneurship at the Asia New Zealand Foundation, Tim McCready. Tim, g'day, mate. Welcome to the show. Thanks very much. Appreciate your time.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Hey, talk to me about this delegation. I think up to 10 entrepreneurs are coming to New Zealand from India. Is this on the back of the free trade agreement with the FTA, or is it just one of the things that is kind of they're here because they want to see what we're up to?
Yeah, well, to begin with, I'll say that the Asia New Zealand Foundation, we're one of New Zealand's leading authorities on Asia, and we help New Zealand build their knowledge, skills, and confidence to excel in Asia. And as you say, we are bringing 10 entrepreneurs and business leaders from India's agribusiness sector over. They're arriving on Thursday. And this is actually the second year that we've run this program. The inaugural cohort of Indian agribusiness entrepreneurs came last year, but it is always a great opportunity. Field Days is the perfect thing to bring these entrepreneurs to, so they can really get a deep understanding of New Zealand and opportunities to connect with the people here, which is, of course, how business gets done.
Yeah, exactly. That is how business gets done. And we know, obviously, how important Asia is to our agricultural sector. Our trade flows out there, obviously, in massive, massive numbers, and incredibly important for us. Bringing people like this delegation in, are they looking to invest in New Zealand? Are they looking to take some of our ideas back to India? What's the idea behind bringing them here?
Yeah, well, this delegation, we've got 10 agribusiness entrepreneurs coming over, and they span farm technology, automation, digital platforms, climate tech, even apiculture. And so they're here for a variety of reasons. Like, for instance, we've got someone from one of India's largest agricultural machinery companies. He's coming over to understand the opportunities with New Zealand in terms of things like farm data, livestock intelligence, and automation. There's this huge interest in what New Zealand technology could mean at scale in India.
Yeah, I was fortunate to go there a couple of years ago, and it opened up my eyes to how vast India is, and the opportunities there seem almost limitless for New Zealand agriculture if we can find a way to work with the Indian systems, right? Because I suppose we've got a preconceived idea of what Indian agriculture is, which is probably not that accurate, I would have thought, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, look, I think that's true. The systems that are used in India, we know that they're quite different. The visit that we're organising for these entrepreneurs is going to really showcase what agriculture in New Zealand looks like. So, we will be doing a visit to a 600 head dairy farm with a rotary system. So things like that will be a little bit different to, obviously in India, the farms there are a lot smaller typically. But there is still this huge demand for the sort of technology that New Zealand has to offer, and just opportunities to do things together.
Would they be looking to develop tech for New Zealand farmers though? Is it a two-way street?
Oh, it's definitely a two-way street. I think that they're coming over here to learn from us, but I think also there's so much that New Zealand can learn from these entrepreneurs over there. They're doing quite sophisticated things in their own right, and so I have no doubt that there'll be opportunities flowing both ways.
Yeah, so 10 of them, they will be at Field Days, obviously. So you said you're taking them to a dairy farm. Are they going to be pretty much in the Waikato, or are you going to be moving them around the country wider?
No, they're going to be right across. They'll land here in Auckland, and there's a few things in Auckland that we'll do with them. We'll take them to, for instance, the Bioeconomy Science Institute, which was the old plant and food research. There's a lot of interest in the science and innovation that's going on in the country. But we're also going to take them to Tauranga, where they'll visit a few different companies there. And then, of course, also to the Waikato. And I think it's useful just to add that they're not only going to be doing these company visits. They're also here to really understand what agribusiness looks like here more generally. So Field Days will be great for that, but also things like popping into a farmland store just to see, what does a rural supply store look like for a country like New Zealand? What does a supermarket look like? There's a lot of interest from these entrepreneurs to understand what our consumer-facing agricultural products, how they're positioned and how they're sold. And also they're keen to just get a good understanding of what New Zealand culture looks like. For all of these entrepreneurs, it's their first time to New Zealand. They know that New Zealand could be a great partner, but they want to learn about, the people and the values of New Zealand as well.
I imagine some of our tech teams or some of our tech companies would be keen to talk to them as well to see what value they could add to maybe what they're already doing. Because one thing India's certainly got, if you can get it, is scale, right?
Oh, Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge scale there. And we're actually co-hosting an event with Agritech New Zealand this Friday with the Auckland Business Chamber and the Indian Consulate in New Zealand. So that will be a panel discussion that showcases some of the delegates that are coming over. That'll be moderated by Brendan O'Connell, who you I'm sure you know, the Chief Executive of Agritech NZ. And we're doing a roundtable with Agritech New Zealand and other Agritech leaders as well. So that's a huge focus for this visit.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. And it is really, really interesting to see what the Indians can do. And you just actually have to go there. Just quickly before we leave, you did mention the Asia New Zealand Foundation. We've been targeting specifically a discussion about India here, but what other things do you guys do? The Asia New Zealand Foundation, what is it? You're not purely just agriculture, are you?
No, not at all. We work in areas that sort of spans arts, business, and entrepreneurship, and that's business and entrepreneurship quite broadly. Also things like media, track 2 diplomacy, sports and research. We were set up 31 years ago when New Zealand was only just starting to recognize the potential of Asia. This is before the China Free Trade Agreement. And now, of course, our ties are much deeper and much more mutually beneficial. And you know, as it becomes more and more clear that New Zealand's future is so deeply connected with Asia, whether that's economically, culturally, or socially, our job is to make sure New Zealand understands Asia well enough to succeed there. And also, and this speaks to the delegation that's coming over, to make sure the right people are connected to each other and to the right opportunities.
Do we understand Asia?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that the foundation has been doing for the last 29 years is a perceptions of Asia study. So every year, a snapshot of how well New Zealand understands Asia and what they know about, what New Zealanders know about Asia. And that study shows that increasingly we're knowing more and more. And things like, last year we saw 59% of New Zealanders say that India is really important to New Zealand's future. People say that India is the third most important country in Asia behind China and Japan to New Zealand. Yeah.
Again, as I said, you've got to go there. And unless you go there, I just don't think you can. I haven't been to China myself, but I'd love to get there one day. But yeah, my trip to India. And I guess it just comes back to, I think, New Zealand. It took us a long time, Tim, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, to kind of just understand our geography, right? We are literally in Asia, compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Our largest trading partner is China, right? So it's and other parts of Asia are only increasing in terms of the trade opportunity, the free trade agreements. This new free trade agreement with India is going to unlock heaps of opportunity. But and as I said right at the start of this, the free trade agreement, it's a great signal. But actually, as you say, you've got to get up there, meet people, make relationships, and make stuff happen, because it's only people-to-people links that actually eventually ultimates and things like increased trade.
I love the discussion I had up there, and I was up there for the cricket, but they talked about cricket diplomacy, and in India, that is definitely the way it goes. Cricket, it is just the universal language. Hey, Tim, really appreciate your time. Great to chat. Love to talk to you more, but we're out of time. We'll chat again.
Yeah, great to talk.
All right, Tim McCready there, Director of Business and Entrepreneurship for the Asia New Zealand Foundation. Yeah, cricket diplomacy, it is an actual thing. I think some of the, I might talk to Nathan Guy about this, but some of the meat companies actually use ex-Black Caps as ambassadors because honestly, you have to go there to see it. Right, we are going to have a quick break now, and then we're going to come back with our news brought to us by Farmlands with Richard Badley.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam Lamb.
Success in dairy farming isn't a stroke of luck, because luck doesn't build legacy.
People ask for our secret for winning, but there's no silver bullet. Our strength lies in our focus on small, disciplined gains.
Strength is no longer about breaking your back. It's now about precision. Our strength is in taking care of our people, because you need a winning team to get winning results.
Our strength is also in our use of innovation. It's a reliable way to win, and EcoLab helps to keep us at the top of our game.
The strength of the NZ dairy industry is one smart, solid choice at a time.
Our first thoughts when Sarah introduced it to us, I thought game changer in almost every possible way, from cost savings, environmental impact, the precision and accuracy of just keeping everything efficient. Yeah, time saving too, really. We are now reassessing our farming business because we have potential to be more productive. We can now look at increasing our stocking rate because we can now put fertiliser where it needs, which means in return we get more grass. It really allows us to optimise nutrient management. We can use the tools to map out and just put the nutrients exactly where it's needed.
Working the land is all go, all the time. Nature waits for no one. So to make the most of big ticket investments, we got you. Shop offers in store, online, Farmlands Pro, or with your rep.
We're a fourth generation business, starting with my grandparents.
In our family, innovation has been a mindset. We're always looking to adopt technology that allows us to apply our management practices with as much precision as we possibly can.
You can't execute this vision without good support around you, so BNZ have been there right from the start.
And we're very confident for the future because we have a very strong governance team, and we include the BNZ in that governance team to help us find a way to achieve our business goals.
The sense to accurately detect she is on heat. The sense to know she is unwell. The sense that you can hold in your hand. It just makes sense.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp. Keeping up with the news is a lot like working the land. It's all go, all the time. Nature waits for no one. Farmlands is here to help this with expert advice, reliable products, and timely supply.
This is CountryWide Connect News with Farmlands. Good afternoon, I'm Richard Badley. A New Zealand veterinary welfare organisation has released what it says is the world's first code of ethical conduct for virtual fencing technology, calling on the industry to self-regulate before animal welfare issues become harder to address. Veterinarians for Animal Welfare Aotearoa says despite GPS collar systems being used on hundreds of thousands of animals worldwide, delivering audio, vibration and electric shock cues to manage livestock, the technology remains largely unregulated from an animal welfare perspective. The code covers animal research, welfare application and training, and calls for the establishment of a virtual fencing manufacturers association to set baseline industry standards. It also recommends transparency requirements, including publishing data on how frequently and at what intensity electrical pulses are delivered. VAWA Managing Director Dr. Helen Beattie says the goal is not to block innovation, but to ensure newcomers enter the market with animal welfare embedded from the start, rather than having welfare issues emerge after widespread commercial adoption. The primary sector features prominently in this year's King's Birthday honours, with leaders from throughout racing through to dairy research among those recognised. Leading the list is Sir David Ellis, appointed a Knight Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit for his extensive services to the thoroughbred industry and philanthropy. In the dairy sector, Waikato's Dr. Katrina Roberts has been honoured for co-developing heifer teat sealing, a breakthrough practice now widely used across New Zealand that prevents tens of thousands of antibiotic treatments every year by reducing mastitis. The agribusiness and horticulture sectors are also represented with Russell Lowe, Dr. Kenneth Woodford, Jeffrey Maber and Dr. Ronald Beatson, all appointed officers of the New Zealand Order of Merit. At the grassroots level, Lindsay Gordon-Wright and Edward Keith Ford have both received the King's Service Medal for their dedication to rural mental health, the dairy industry and Fire and Emergency New Zealand. Two New Zealand timber sports athletes are chasing history in Budapest this weekend. King Country farmer Jack Jordan bidding to become the first full-time winner of the Still Timber Sports World Trophy, and West Coast-born Ashley Marsh competing at the inaugural Women's World Championship. Jordan goes to Hungary as 3-time defending champion and world record holder, having set a new mark of 52.53 seconds at his last victory in Milan. Marsh grew up in Westport, where her father competed in wood chopping and earned her place as New Zealand's sole women's representative at a championship in Melbourne in April. Now based in Australia, she says the event is her Olympics. Taranaki's Matthew Gower completes the 3-person New Zealand team competing in the Under-25 Rookies World Championship on Saturday morning New Zealand time, followed by Ashley Marsh with Jack Jordan's event on Sunday morning. And that's the latest Countrywide Connect news.
Nature waits for no one. Farmlands is here to help this with expert advice, reliable products, and timely supply. Shop offers in store, online, Farmlands Pro, or with your rep. Leading agri-tech innovation is Sense Hub Dairy, the modular end-to-end dairy system, combining animal behavior monitoring, milk intelligence, and automation in one connected platform, backed by MSD Animal Health.
Alrighty, welcome back to Countrywide Connect. Yes, recent testing has revealed significant parasite burdens in apparently healthy beef cattle, costing farmers production and profitability. Joining us now to discuss that is Greg Mirams, founder and managing director of Techion. G'day, Greg. Welcome to the show, mate. Really appreciate your time.
Andy, nice to see you, mate. Since Wanaka, I think you're looking fitter and healthier since I saw you.
Thanks. I very much appreciate that. Yeah, well, I've been working for a living actually since Wanaka, to be fair. But what a great event that was. That was my first time. I loved it.
Yeah, I haven't been for years, Andy, and it's grown tenfold since I used to stand there selling feed packs back in the day. But it's a pretty cool event for the town for sure.
Oh, it certainly is. Now let's talk about this because faecal egg counts in beef cattle is something which obviously we certainly don't want to have. But you've made a bit of a discovery here. What have you found?
So Andy, it actually happened at duck shooting. You know, all good things happen in the mine. Of course they do.
Yep.
And so we've been working on a new technology to be able to speciate which species of parasite are in a fecal sample by the way they look. So basically it's facial recognition for parasites. Now we've developed and launched this product in sheep, but we've been busy working on the cattle technology. So when I went duck shooting, I said to the boys, like, bring some cattle samples because we're working on some data sets, which they did. And I took them back and we were, whoa, this was a wee surprise. Some of the counts were way over 500 eggs per gram, Andy, and they shouldn't be more than 100. And this allowed us to go, well, this was cattle in West Otago, and this was cattle that was, you know, you were probably a month out from sort of putting on a winter crop, you know, post-weaning. And when we actually did some more diving on that, we found that not only were they high, but when we did the species mix on them, they had a strong presence of homunculus, which is normally a North Island issue. And here it was turning up in West Otago.
So what are we putting that down for? I saw that you described this as a perfect storm. How or what? Is it just weather?
Yeah, look, it's a complex system, Andy, as you know, biology, right? But what we believe is occurring is that we generally had a nationwide moist season. So what you get when that happens is that you get, you know, quite good growthy pastures right through those summer months. And the animals are grazing over those pastures. They are dropping egg counts or eggs onto those pastures. Those larvae are surviving, Andy, because they're not getting burnt off by UV light. So the larval survival is higher because you've had that sort of that thatch of feed and the UV light's not getting in. And in many areas, we didn't have a lot of UV light over the summer. It was quite cloudy and murky. That's all great. Stock generally did well. And then, of course, the autumn comes along. Feed quality drops away. Stock are eating lower. And what we're seeing is the result of that with high challenges of pasture larval levels hitting these cattle in that autumn phase.
Okay, so I get that, and I get that it's a perfect storm, so I get there's higher fecal egg counts, but would farmers not start to see the impact of that in their stock and start to wonder what's going on. I mean, your technology is making it very clear what's going on, right? But so without the testing, that farmers would be take longer to diagnose.
Yeah, well, it's the iometer, right? You go there and say, those cattle looking great. And the farmers go, they were really surprised, and they look really good. And I'm going, well, when we actually got those results, Andy, you started, and they knew them.
Yeah.
They actually went, well, when we looked at the mob, we saw this sort of separation. We saw some really good cattle, but the middle, and there was a bit of a tail. When you actually knew that they were carrying a big worm burden, when you looked deeper, you saw these lighter cattle at the bottom end. And unlike sheep, cattle don't show those clinical signs visually as much as a lamb does. You know, a calf just doesn't. It'll be impacting their growth rates, as I said in the article. I mean, you know, you could be losing, you know, half to 2/3 of their growth per day, but you visually don't see it. And that's the trap where it's getting stolen from you. But as soon as you got that egg count data, you go, wow, these are high. Not only are they high, Andy, they're also contaminating these pastures. I mean, you're talking 500 eggs in every gram of material they're passing. That is a really high contamination. So we're pouring out this problem onto those pastures, which is going to haunt us later, which is the other issue.
So you talked about the AI tech to be able to identify the worm burden, right, or the eggs. You also said being able to identify what type. So that would obviously make a difference potentially in the treatment that a farmer's going to use, right? How useful is that?
Yeah, it's extremely useful, Andy, because when we see, if you look at cattle, and this is the same with dairy calves and any young stock, you generally, and this is a generally thing, you see Couperia is the major problem. Then we start to see a bit of Homoncus and a bit of Trichostrongylus occurring in the autumn, and you generally get your Ostatagia later in that spring, in that winter's period. Now, when that starts to change, you can kill Couperia with most of your common orals really quite cost effectively, highly effective. But that changes when you're starting to deal with Trichostrongylus and you're starting to deal with larger animals. And so your choice of compound is often influenced by what that species mix looks like, and also what drench resistance profile you've got occurring on your farm. So the species data becomes increasingly important when you're buying the right drug for the right problem at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're not going in blind with the old, what I used to call the old shotgun effect, right? You just spray, drench blindly, and hopefully you're getting the right one. So the technology that you're using here, your FICPAC, so farmers send samples to you, right? And then you test it, comes back. You talked about AI being able to, like, facial recognition. Is this secret squirrel stuff how it actually works?
No, not at all, Andy. So there's two forms of accessing this test. If you haven't noticed, we've just launched a relationship with farmlands. So there's going to be easy, cost-effective ability to walk into farmlands, grab a little test kit and get access to this test. So that's the first one. The second one is that you can have this technology on farm, and many farmers will buy a FICPAC unit and they can monitor their own egg count. So there's two entry points that you can access it. We have AI running now, Andy, to basically quickly return those egg count results. So you push the sample up, and in near real time, you get the result back. So that's operating now. So that'll give you baseline worm burden level, but at that point, you don't know what's inside that or what makes up that mix, but you do get your count. The new technology that we've developed is that we can put a preparation into the device, and it takes super high resolution images of those parasite eggs, and we can measure them very, very accurately and add features to it, which basically puts them into different buckets because it tells us which type they are. Now, that's not currently AI, that's technicians doing that online. So you push up the image and our technicians log on and say, we've done this, Andy, and you've got 80% Trichostrongylus and 20% Couperia. So you then get that information back. So that's near real time. It will evolve to AI, but we need to do a lot more data actual measurements manually or semi-manually before we can actually get an AI model to do that part.
Okay, it's almost scary the amount of information we can be getting now through using technology, which in the past we had to wait quite a lot of time, almost until you had a negative result, and then you go, okay, or you just had, as I said, a drenching regime where you just blanket drench regardless, right? So it's certainly. What about are there other adaptations for this type of technology? I imagine there's other uses that could be done as well.
Yes, there is, Andy. I've just we're going to be launching at the field days. So we're in the innovation awards, and we're launching the new the speciation technology. But the other part is, and I'm just preparing the press release for it now, and that's for facial eczema using the same device, Andy. So you're talking about pasture samples being done through the device. So that's for pasture spore monitoring. But the other dynamic is being able to measure the number of spores per gram of fecal material. And that's really super valuable for particularly a dairy operation where the cows bring the samples into you, and you can push the sample up in a matter of minutes and have a daily spore count of what the cows are actually consuming. Then you know whether to add zinc or move them. So you're able to use management to deal with this disease because you've got this live feedback loop coming in. So you're right, the ringing out of additional tests is really starting to come on stream now.
Yeah, and based on a couple of the interviews we did a month ago with a couple of the scientists from the bioeconomy science, talking about now they've identified different spores, some of them being more dangerous than others, not just a straight number, being able to physically identify which spore it is. I can imagine that using this tech will be a massive advantage as well for farmers.
Look, and I think that's the exciting part. Farmers, Andy, have had very little options with facial eczema. And with the work that BSI are doing and the work that the technology, the imaging technology that we're bringing to market, you're quite right. Those two things should, and I'm sure will, continue to work together to provide farmers with more information. We know that, for example, these spores change appearance when they age, and that means that they likely change the level of toxin on them. I see a world where we don't just report spores per gram, we report toxin levels. So I think the industry's now got a wave of tech that's going to enable a lot more of this type of information to be in the palm of the hand for the farmer.
Yeah, and the most important thing about all this tech is the ability to limit use of, say, antibiotic or spray or drench or whatever it is, right? Because we do have to start limiting our use as much as we can.
Well, look, to your point earlier on, shotguns work until they don't, right? Can we get more precision around this in terms of timing and which drug we've chosen to do what thing? If you take eczema, the options are really limited, Andy, because you either start adding zinc, and we know that any dairy farmer will tell you that when you start adding zinc, you'll often see milk production drop because you are having an impact on that animal, which is not, it's not good production-wise, but it might protect them. Now, what we want to do is only do that when your animals are actually exposed to these spores, is one. And the other one is the ways that we can move these cows to other areas where they're not getting the same level of exposure. We've also got, products which you can spray on the pasture, to kill this Pithomyces on the ground. Well, now we've got a tool where you can actually measure how effective that is or not. So it's a really exciting time.
All right, absolutely. Good luck at field days. No doubt we'll probably catch up there at some time. We'll wander through the innovation, and good luck with the awards. I know that they're always very, very well fought, and it'll be good to catch up, Greg. Have a good one, and thanks for your time.
No worries, Andy. Appreciate it. So we'll be at the Farmlands tent if anybody wants to come and see what we're up to.
All right. Yep. Well, we won't be far away from there at some point as well. Greg Mirams there, founder and managing director of Techion. Thanks so much for your time. Right. After the break, we're going to catch up with Nathan Guy, Chair, Meat Industry Association, and the Special Agricultural Trade Envoy.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lamb.
Success in dairy farming isn't a stroke of luck, because luck doesn't build legacy.
People ask for our secret for winning, but there's no silver bullet. Our strength lies in our focus on small, disciplined gains.
Strength is no longer about breaking your back. It's now about precision. Our strength is in taking care of our people, because you need a winning team to get winning results.
Our strength is also in our use of innovation. It's a reliable way to win, and Ecolab helps to keep us at the top of our game.
The strength of the NZ dairy industry is one smart, solid choice at a time.
Our first thoughts when Sarah introduced it to us, I thought game changer in almost every possible way, from cost savings, environmental impact, the precision and accuracy of just keeping everything efficient. Yeah, time saving too, really. We are now reassessing our farming business because we have potential to be more productive. We can now look at increasing our stocking rate because we can now put fertiliser where it needs, which means in return we get more grass. It really allows us to optimise nutrient management. We can use the tools to map out and just put the nutrients exactly where it's needed.
Working the land is all go, all the time. Nature waits for no one. So to make the most of big ticket investments, we got you. Shop offers in store, online, Farmlands Pro, or with your rep.
We're a fourth generation business, starting with my grandparents.
In our family, innovation has been a mindset. We're always looking to adopt technology that allows us to apply our management practices with as much precision as we possibly can.
You can't execute this vision without good support around you, so BNZ have been there right from the start.
And we're very confident for the future because we have a very strong governance team, and we include the BNZ in that governance team to help us find a way to achieve our business goals.
The sense to accurately detect she is on heat. The sense to know she is unwell. The sense that you can hold in your hand. It just makes sense.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp.
12:20 on CountryWide Connect. Great to have you with us this afternoon on a Tuesday that feels like a Monday. Long weekend. Hope everyone got a bit of a break. I know I always say that. Now I feel like a fraud because I know farmers don't really get a break over the weekend. So I hope that you did manage to take a wee bit of time off the farm. If you were farming, and as we said at the top of the show, obviously it was moving weekend, so a lot of people are very excited if you were dairy farming. I tried to actually get Todd McClay on the show today, but as usual, he's off somewhere. Todd's off to the UK to jointly chair the New Zealand-UK FTA Trade Committee meeting in Paris and to vice chair the annual OECD Ministerial Council meeting. So good old Todd on that one. I am assured that he's not just heading over there coincidentally to go to the cricket. The test starts in Lords on Thursday. No, trade will take priority. I know that Todd will definitely not be doing that. This also coincides with the third anniversary of entry into force of the New Zealand-UK FTA, with two-way trade reaching a record $7.4 billion in 2025. So that FTA with the UK has certainly paid its way. It's been absolutely fantastic. We are trying to get hold of Nathan Guy. He is the chair of the Meat Industry Association. He did text me just before and he said he should be there by 12:20. So far, I don't think we have seen him. Don't really going to go to another break. So what we're going to do in the meantime then is we're going to catch up with our Dairy Country podcast brought to us by Anne Lee, also brought to us by our very good friends at, let me find this, brought to us by our good friends at ScolourUp on this one. So we will, this episode is brought to you by ScolourUp, New Zealand manufacturers of dairy, rubberware and accessories. Explore the full range at scolorup.com.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp.
Hi there, and welcome to this week's episode of Dairy Country. I'm Anne Lee, and we're usually been pretty upbeat here on the Dairy Country podcast, but this week we're dealing with a topic that probably strikes fear into every dairy farmer's heart, in fact, every farmer's heart in New Zealand, and that is the issue of foot and mouth disease. It's a disease our farming cousins, our mates across in South Africa have been dealing with for a long time, but recently that disease has hit a new level with devastating consequences. And I have to say, I've seen some of the social media and it's absolutely heartbreaking and reduced me to tears at one point. So I'm very grateful that all three of you are joining me here today. And I tell you now, our hearts all go out to you and we're feeling your pain. Georgie, I have with me today Georgie Muller from Dairy Junction and Pinion Advisory, Farm Advisor. I've got with me too Steve Moss from Just Milk, which is a dairy farming company. He's a share farmer and it's also a dairy management company as well. And we also have Andrew Morphew from FMD Response, which is a farmer-led independent organisation. And we'll talk about why farmers and independent-led organisations are so important in South Africa. It's part of the issue, I guess. So, Georgie, we'll come to you first. Can you give us a bit of background as to the FMD disease, foot and mouth disease in South Africa? How long has it been there? What animals is it in? And what's happened recently?
Yes, morning, Anne. Thanks so much for inviting us on your show. So South Africa has historically always had two red zones where foot and mouth is endemic. It was always traditionally the Kruger Park due to the population of wild buffalo in that area, and then a bit later the Umfolozi Shishilimi and surrounding areas also due to buffalo. So those have kind of been red zones for some time. There should have been very strict control movements in and out of those areas. There should have been vaccination controls happening around the periphery. Those things probably haven't been very well managed. I think it's really important to understand that South Africa has a very large population of communal cattle, which makes it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to fully control and manage animal movements. And obviously we all know that that is an absolutely key and critical part of controlling this disease. So it has in certain areas been endemic, but the rest of South Africa was supposedly foot and mouth free. Then in 2021, there was a reasonably significant outbreak, not in commercial cattle, that was in communal cattle in areas of KZN, and then kind of quietened down a bit. And then in 2024, that was the first time that it really hit commercial dairy farmers properly. And that was obviously a huge shock to everyone. So it kind of arrived out of the blue. We don't really know even where it came from or how it got to that first farm. It was in the Humansthorpe area of the Eastern Cape. And that's a very, very highly populated dairy area, very big herds, all pasture-based, but very, very big herds. Everyone's milking over 1,000 cows, kind of back to back, all neighbouring each other. And of course, it just spread like wildfire through there. So there were over 30 farms infected very badly. I'm talking about big dairy farms now. They eventually managed to control that one with vaccination. They got vaccine from BVI, Botswana vaccine, and that did kind of bring an end to that particular outbreak, but it hasn't really gone away since then. So I guess from mid-2025, it's been lurking around. It's been just growing, spreading slowly. And then from 2025, I guess, kind of July, August onwards, it just got into KZN, and then and this is obviously now it's just now absolutely everywhere. It's in every single province, except perhaps the Northwest. Obviously, a lot of provinces much worse affected. Most provinces are badly affected now, except for the Western Cape and the Northern Cape. So yeah, it really does It's a virus that spreads extremely quickly. It's very robust. It's highly contagious. It's very, very difficult to control once it gets a hold.
Yeah, and because your country has had it, it has been endemic. It's not something our farmers will be very familiar with. Mycoplasma bovis. We've also seen what happened in the UK with those outbreaks, where people then try and eradicate. There's no thought of eradicating this, but it is a matter of trying to control it. Can you give us a kind of idea of what it does to animals, especially, our farmed animals?
Yeah, so I think when it hit the Eastern Cape dairy guys in 2024, I think that might be the first time that it's really got hold of commercial dairy farms. I mean, a lot of countries are obviously operating a slaughter policy, so you don't really get to see exactly what happens if it really gets in properly. I mean, the vets almost had a kind of a morbid fascination to see what would actually happen, because we didn't really know. But I mean, the results were just absolute carnage. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, dairy cows absolutely cannot and do not cope with foot and mouth disease. It's horrific what it does to a dairy cow. I mean, we can talk about the symptoms, the blistering, the lesions, the mastitis. I mean, we've got all the data now. You've seen the social media, like you say, it's heartbreaking.
Absolutely awful, terrible. There are different serotypes, I understand, of the disease. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so there's different strains. So as far as we know, South Africa has SAT1, SAT2, SAT3 strains. I say as far as we know because we're incredibly far behind with lab testing. But we do know that the Eastern Cape outbreak in 2024 was SAT3. KZN, as far as we know, more SAT1 and SAT2 are more prevalent, but I think there is also SAT3 in KZN as well. And certainly there's more than one strain in KZN, because there's some herds that have got it more than once, within a 6-month period. And that can only really happen if there's more than one strain. So we are dealing with 3 strains. As far as we know, there's no major difference in symptoms between all 3. I mean, if you're looking at, what herds are experiencing, it's kind of up to 50% mastitis. So up to 50% of the herd will get mastitis. It's a viral mastitis, not a bacterial mastitis. So it doesn't respond well to antibiotics. So it's very, very difficult to manage. Obviously, you've got skin coming off udders, which makes milking the cows just incredibly difficult and traumatic. The blistering and the lesions on the feet. We do find that copper sulfate helps a bit with the secondary bacterial infections, from a lameness perspective. Somatic cell counts shooting up to over 5 million. Guys that have never had cell counts over 200,000 were just getting counts of certainly over 1 million. And, even the monthly average was over 1 million for quite a few of them. The tiger heart in the calf, so it's a virus that attacks the heart muscles. It causes myocarditis. So that seems to have affected calves really, really badly. I mean, Steve will tell you all about that. They got that. But it's strange because herds have different symptoms, and it doesn't seem to be specifically strain related. Some herds have terrible mastitis and not that much, not that many lame problems. Other guys have had terrible lame problems and not such bad mastitis. So it seems to be very random. Some guys have lost all their calves. Other guys didn't have any problems with calves. So that's a very, very difficult thing. I mean, that's left the vets absolutely scratching their heads as to, I don't know whether some herds get higher viral load or, yeah, it's a strange virus like that. Seems to manifest itself quite differently on different farms. But generally, I think the biggest thing has probably been the mastitis was probably the most traumatic thing to deal with for many of the guys.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp.
Alrighty, yes. God forbid, absolutely God forbid, we ever get that here in New Zealand. It is an absolute nightmare material. And my next guest, I don't know if you heard that, Nathan Guy, former Ag Minister, now Chair of the New Zealand Meat Industry Association and Special Agricultural Trade Envoy. G'day, Nathan. Welcome to the show. And also a dairy farmer in Levin. Really appreciate your time.
G'day, Andy. Good news, mate. It's raining here today, finally.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because things are getting very dry. Just before we do that, did you? I don't know if you caught any of that discussion about foot and mouth in South Africa. Obviously, it's endemic over there. They were just talking about some farmers and a vet just talking about how serious it is. As former MPI minister, no doubt you were well and truly briefed on how bad this would be for us.
Oh, it'd be terrible. There's been numerous reports telling farmers and industry leaders and government how much it would cost. It's billions of dollars. Turn the lights out. It'd be very scary.
Yeah, good to see some work being done, though. There was I think a couple of weeks ago or 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was actually a big exercise. And I think, I hate this word, I'll probably get fined for using it, but I think we are slightly more prepared now that we've had M. bovis. There's been some learnings from that situation, which I think is farmers will take traceability and all that sort of thing a lot more serious. Hey, just coming back to your farming, though, rain in the Vin, it has been quite dry. You're getting some finally.
Yeah, we only had 20 mils of rain for May. It's unheard of. We just got the cows held up. Most of them are dried off, waiting to go out to grazing. Our big grazier, he's on the sand country not far from here, and he's very concerned about having enough grass for our moo-moos. So hopefully this rain sets in a bit and sets them up.
Still warm, right? Temperatures
Very
are pretty
warm.
good.
Yeah, we always bitch and moan about the weather though, Andy, you know that.
Yeah, it's either too hot, too cold, too wet, or too dry. But this year, though, this season, potentially, I see One News has just said that the El Nino's locked in 95%. We don't know how strong, but potentially quite a strong one. Are you a little bit concerned about that?
Oh, yes. It's very hard, though, with weather forecasting to go so far out, isn't it? And I think about the Hawke's Bay farmers a couple of years ago. They thought they were going to get a bad drought, sold a lot of stock store leading into Christmas, and then they got 4 inches of rain.
Mm.
So, yes, it sounds bad, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, all right. Forewarned is forearmed, I think that's the way they say it. Hey, Nathan, you got a couple of hats on at the moment. You are the chair of the Meat Industry Association and you're the Special Agricultural Trade Envoy. I've been meaning to ask you, are those two roles complementary?
Oh, very much so. You know, our second biggest export earner is red meat and having a fantastic run of things at the moment. And so is dairy, by the way. When you look across the whole of the primary sector, Andy, you know this, everyone's very chipper and pretty good shape. Maybe wine is the one that's softened a little bit, but then we've got crossbred wool that's coming from, you know, the doldrums up very quickly. So exciting opportunities across the board for our primary sector.
Let's just go back to the MIA and you've just appointed a new CEO, Nick Beebe. What made him stand out for that role?
Well, he's already a CE. That's the first point. Second one, he knows the industry inside out. Third one is he's a young leader with a huge amount of potential. And he is going to be a great fit for a small, high-performing team in Wellington. So we're excited about Nick. He's transitioning across from the meat board, where he's CE at the moment. So Kate Ackland and I have been talking over the last few weeks. Big IT upgrade at the meat board. So she wants Nick, of course, overseeing that, which we're happy with. We see there's a lot of synergies also with his background coming from beef and lamb. And he was a key driver in Taste Pure Nature. So he understands that big marketing push that we're involved in China. So he ticks many boxes, exciting times, and we're looking forward to Nick hitting the ground running.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just for people that might not understand what the Meat Industry Association is, what is it? What do you guys do?
Well, we sit between companies and government. We are funded by meat companies. Instead of the meat companies banging down the doors in Parliament or the Beehive, they tend to leave that to MIA. And MIA's role is trade, basically outside the farm gate, but we do step inside of it a little bit when we need to, particularly on climate change and sustainability. So the main focus is trade and market access. Human resources are big because of immigration policy, because they need a lot of people in the processing plants, and quite often they come from overseas. So biosecurity, animal welfare, all of those things play a part as well.
It was interesting. I was lucky enough, I think it was last year, to go to the MIA conference here in Christchurch. And yeah, I was really surprised. And what you just said then, MIA outside the farm gate, the farmers produce the product, then basically the meat companies, and it all takes, there were, at the conference, there were big shipping companies, there were ports, there's this whole ecosystem that I think as farmers, we probably don't fully understand. And I actually learned quite a lot at that conference. I found it really fascinating.
It was a great conference, and I just watched the Fonterra tanker drive out our drive this morning, and I thought, we're so blessed with that tanker turning up every day, and we probably don't realise what's involved to take that raw milk into international markets. Around 120 of them around the world. So we're blessed with the access that we've got. We're blessed that Fonterra's in really good shape. New strategy. We are blessed with meat companies taking our products to the world as well. So exciting times, Andy.
It certainly is. Hey, you've just announced, or there's the export strategy addressing 1.5 billion annual cost of non-tariff trade barriers. What do you mean by that, and what can we actually do about that?
That's a really good question. We kicked that along at our manifesto launch in the Beehive about a month ago. We just wanted all politicians to be aware there are some low-hanging fruit in amongst that I think it's 1.7 billion, 1.5, it changes a little bit. MPI and MFAT have been doing a good job, and we want to help them do an even better job. So I'm meeting them in the next few weeks to understand where are the opportunities, where are the challenges. I've just come back from 3 weeks traveling, and I've been trying to talk about some of those NTBs with different industry leaders. Some of them, to give you an example, are phytosanitary and sanitary. Some of them are just red tape and bureaucracy. Some of them are wound up in geopolitical issues. I think on the back of COVID, Andy, what happened is a lot of countries became sort of more inward looking and more protectionist. So they seem to pile on these non-tariff barriers, and our job working with government is to try and get them removed. Easier said than done, though. Some of them are really complex.
Yeah, there's been some discussions potentially that some of these non-tariff trade barriers could be put on to do with climate. Is that some of our climate rules, what we're doing, what we're not doing? Is that an issue? Is that something we could not? Do you think we're putting enough emphasis on that?
On climate and sustainability?
Yeah.
That has been a big discussion point for me, particularly in Europe and the UK. A couple of weeks ago when I was there, they see us as very much a trusted partner in trade, and they know that we do incredibly well with our animals outdoors, hormone-free, all of those positive things, taste of nature, etc., all those attributes. But we can't rest on our laurels, Andy. We've got to continue to make progress. But it's been interesting in the last couple of years when the world climbs out of sort of post-COVID and recessionary economic times, that consumers are focused more on food on the table and cost of living than perhaps what they have done in the past around sustainability and climate. Let me finish that by saying, in some of these countries that I've been to, they're high-value markets. So if we're targeting high-value consumers, which we do, whether it's dairy, red meat, wine, etc., we need to play our part as I guess, stewards of the land. And we've been very successful, but we can't afford to move away from that. And I guess as the election campaign warms up a bit, Andy, we'll hear some political parties say, get out of Paris, which I think is ludicrous, because that would mean we'd have to rewrite our free trade agreements with the UK and the FTA and the EU. And I'm sure we'd find that the schedule price for beef, lamb and dairy drops.
Interesting you say that, Nathan, because that is a refrain that we hear from one political party in particular, part of the coalition, and it does seem to get some resonance with certain people. And I always find that very, very frustrating. Your role, though, as Special Agricultural Trade Envoy is distinct from your role as chair of the Meat Industry Association. But as you said, there's quite a lot of crossover between the two roles. But obviously, the agricultural trade envoy is all of New Zealand ag, right? Not just red meat, effectively. So, when you're travelling in that role, what sort of things are you doing? I mean, what's that role entail?
I guess the easiest way of summarising, sort of sitting between industry and government, appointed by government, connected through to industry and farmers and growers. So when I travel, the local embassies tend to put a program together. They share it with me before I travel. So what do you think? And the SAIT role encompasses, the easiest way of looking at it is everything from the ground up. So pine trees through to the primary sector, all of those industries that we just talked about. And when I get in market, I talk to politicians, I talk to industry leaders, I talk to consumers, get a good feel for what's happening in these different markets, talk about our challenges and opportunities, and report back to a core group and to a wider industry group that's very interested in my take of the world. So I'm at the moment busy preparing a report that's due in a week or two.
All right. Nathan, we'll probably catch you at Field Days. You're going to be there?
I'll be there, yeah. Meeting a lot of international visitors there, some from South America, some from Europe. So that's an important time for, I guess, farmers and growers to get off the farm and kick the tractor tires and get the vibe. But it's also a showcase for many international visitors.
Yep.
And it's one that we're extremely proud of.
Yeah, we were talking to Tim McCready from the Asian New Zealand Foundation earlier in the show, and there's a delegation of 10 young Indian entrepreneurs coming in. So that is one of the many delegations as well. Hey, Nathan, really appreciate your time on the show today, mate. Thank you. Great to catch up. Looking forward to catching up in person at Field Days, but we'll have you on again.
Cool. Andy, thanks for the opportunity. All the best.
All right, Nathan Guy there. Yes, a couple of hats on. Well, many hats, actually. As I said, chair of the Meat Industry Association and the Special Agricultural Trade Envoy. Okay, we are going to go to a quick break and we're going to find Tony T. I think he's going to be live here in studio from Blue Skies. Weather brought to us by Ravensdown.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp.
Hi team, the latest rural insights out now from Bailey's. Look, fantastic momentum in the dairy industry at the moment. Commodity prices are fantastic. Interest rates are down. Stable government. All the stars are aligning for this year. So why wouldn't you want to be involved? We're seeing record sales for the first part of the season. So talk to your local Bailey's agent and they'll give you the full insight of what's been happening in the last few months.
We're a fourth generation business, starting with my grandparents.
In our family, innovation has been a mindset. We're always looking to adopt technology that allows us to apply our management practices with as much precision as we possibly can.
You can't execute this vision without good support around you, so VNZ have been there right from the start.
And we're very confident for the future because we have a very strong governance team, and we include the BNZ in that governance team to help us find a way to achieve our business goals.
Working the land is all go, all the time. Nature waits for no one. So for workwear that can weather the weather, we got you. Shop offers in store, online, Farmland Pro, or with your rep.
Our first thoughts when Sarah introduced it to us, I thought game changer in almost every possible way, from cost savings, environmental impact, the precision and accuracy of just keeping everything efficient. Yeah, time saving too, really. We are now reassessing our farming business because we have potential to be more productive. We can now look at increasing our stocking rate because we can now put fertiliser where it needs, which means in return we get more grass. It really allows us to optimise nutrient management. We can use the tools to map out and just put the nutrients exactly where it's needed.
The sense to accurately detect she is on heat. The sense to know she is unwell. The sense that you can hold in your hand. It just makes sense.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp. Now it's time for your eye in the sky for the next 6 weeks' weather. Brought to you by Hawkeye Pro from Ravenstown, where the proof is in the paddock.
Alrighty, welcome back to the show, 12:48 on CountryWide Connect, and on Tuesdays we do weather with Tony from Blue Skies. Tony, g'day mate, welcome to the show. As always, thanks for your time.
Hi Andy.
Nice to have you in studio, thank you. I want to talk about the 6-week outlook. I do also want to talk about the weather forecast for Mystery Creek next week. But firstly, talk me through why it is 22 degrees on like the last day of autumn or the first day of winter in Christchurch, but also warm right around the country. This is unusual.
It is unusual. This is the weather event that you and I have talked about for weeks. I said end of May, somewhere around King's birthday weekend, something's going to happen. The standard weather pattern, the westerly weather pattern is going to break down. Something's going to come along. Weren't entirely sure what it was until perhaps about 10 days ago. But it turns out to be this very warm, moist northerly airflow that's dragging some moisture down from the subtropics onto the country. Not exactly an unusual scenario given the last 6 months of weather patterns where we've seen this happen multiple times.
Tony, I'm interested in that. You said something was going to happen. You didn't know what. Could it have been a southerly blast just as easily?
I think we had that discussion about a month ago, if I remember right, when I was signalling that. And you said to me, could it be a southerly? And I said, yes, it could be. It could be our first low-level snow of the season. It turns out to be the opposite way around. But what was clear was that the weather pattern was going to break down at this point in time before it resets again over the coming days and in the early part of next week.
So I'm always interested in the numbers. How high or how low was this low effectively? Because, I mean, if we're talking, 1 to 2 degrees above normal, that's, but when you're getting 3 to 4, maybe even 5, that's significant.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And this, the warmth and the moisture in this northerly airflow was pretty much at the top end of the scale. Not what you would expect to see at this time of year. Would not be out of place in January or February or March.
Not at all.
So to get it in June, yeah, it's a little unusual. Well, it's more than a little unusual. It is unusual, yeah.
Just looking back for a little bit, but also record dry on the East Coast, particularly in Canterbury, 4 or 5 mils all of May. We've spoken to 2 farmers today, one in the Wairarapa, one in Levin. Again, only 11 mils up there in the lower North Island all of May. That is unusual, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And all the rain's falling today in the places where it's not particularly dry. So that's not very helpful either. Yes, it is fairly unusual, and it reflects the fact that we've seen a lot of high-pressure systems over New Zealand through May. And they tend to keep the rain-bearing weather systems away and apart from the East Coast. They tend to impact the West Coast a little bit more, and we're seeing that with that northerly airflow today. But yes, it is dry. The prospect that June could well turn out to be a rather dry month for many areas as well. So that's not going to be good news for so many people.
Okay, let's have a look, seeing as we are the 2nd of June. So we are the second day of winter officially. And I always think, as an aside, I think our seasons are off. I always feel winter should be May, June and July, and then August, September, October should be spring, but it's a month later. But
well, I'll tell you what, the atmosphere doesn't have a calendar hanging on its wall, right? So it doesn't pull the sheet for May off and go, oh, it's the 1st of June, I better move into winter mode. It decides when it wants to move into winter mode.
Yep, and maybe that's what's happening. Let's have a look at the 6-week outlook then. What are we expecting over the country then for the first couple of weeks?
Big contrast. This week quite warm, quite wet in the west, although much of that rain has already fallen yesterday and today. So not quite so wet for the rest of the week, but still wet in the western side of the country, dry in the east. It switches round at the weekend and we see a shift to southwesterly airflow, colder air coming in from the south rather than from the north. And that's going to be the pattern for most of next week. It's going to be somewhat similar to the weather systems we saw through much of May. So the high pressure will be pushing onto the South Island. It's going to push south to southeasterly airflow onto the North Island. It's going to keep things generally cool, frosty. So you're talking about field days there.
Yep.
Weather for the Waikato for next week, relatively settled, but on the cool side. Cold at night, could be light ground frosts in many parts of not just the North Island, and certainly in the South Island next week. So that cooler phase comes in after the warmer week this week.
So what you're telling me is when we're going to field days next week, because we're going to get up there on Tuesday, and we're there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, CountryWide Connect coming live from the
Fantastic.
Ecolab site at field days. Really looking forward to that. Pack the warm socks.
Yeah, you'll need the warm socks. You need the beanie first thing in the morning, especially you. You're going to need that beanie first thing in the morning.
I will.
But nice days, probably sunshine, relatively pleasant afternoon temperatures. You won't need the raincoat. You shouldn't need the umbrella.
That's actually a perfect field day's weather.
Yeah.
That really is
Yeah.
perfect field day's weather. And then, okay, so that's great. I'm sure Richard Lindbergh and the entire field days team will be very happy with your forecast there, Tony. They will be ecstatic about that. And so will I be if I don't get my, well, I'll probably have a rental car, get stuck in the mud. No, they've got their car parked really good. What about then 3 to 6, the next 3 weeks of the 6 weeks? What's that looking like?
The trend is towards a little drier, a little warmer. So back to where we were through that May pattern where the high pressure is dominant. Now, there's one wrinkle to that, which is, again, a suggestion of a breakdown in the pattern for the very end of June, very beginning of July. So somewhere around the last few days of June, first few days of July, we may see another of these active periods like we're in at the moment. Some suggestion that one will be the cold southerly one rather than the warm northerly one. So if you're worried about snow in the South Island, you're worried about cold in the North Island, it could be that end of June period is the next one to look at.
So far what you've told me is no real snow for June for the ski fields. Nothing.
No, it's going to be quite quiet for the ski fields. Those that have been able to make snow have done quite well, but those relying on natural snow, they haven't had a particularly good May, and they're probably not going to get a particularly good June.
Okay. I don't want to keep labouring on this because I know people are starting to get a little bit sick of it, but this dry period, extended dry, I've farmed in dry for a long time and I'm terrified of dry. If you don't, I farmed on the West Coast, but that was part of the reason why we're on the West Coast. If you don't get rain in the winter or the autumn, you don't fill up your groundwater.
Yeah.
You don't have your dams fill for stock water, for irrigation.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is concerning me, even although I know what an El Nino looks like. But normally you come out of a winter with at least something. We're not
that's right.
Seeing it.
We're not quite got that something yet.
No.
We still got a fair bit of winter to go, so there's some hope that will happen. The rainfall signal for this winter was never clear. It was always an uncertainty around rainfall this winter. It looks as though it's trending drier. So that has got to be of concern, because when that El Nino builds up, and it is definitely coming on its way now, all the measurements are showing it's starting to become in place, not quite coupled up to the atmosphere yet. We've not got atmosphere and ocean working together just right at this moment, but we're heading towards that. Once that starts happening in the springtime, early summertime, East Coast is going to go dry. Now, last time we had major El Nino in New Zealand, I don't need to tell you, Andy, I don't need to tell the folks out there, we had farmers, banks foreclosing on farmers. We've had an extra 0.5% on inflation nationally. We've had all kinds of issues with feed supply, stock prices collapsing, all those sorts of things. These are not unreasonable expectations for what we may see this coming summer. And if you go into that dry, you're on the back foot before you even start.
So the fact that El Nino is definitely coming, I just saw a post from TVNZ saying 95% certain that it's coming, which is 100%. The severity, though, are we getting closer to, we've seen reports of, super El Nino and sort of talking about what years that might correlate with. Are we getting closer to being able to understand the intensity and the strength?
Yeah, I think we are. Every predictive piece of information that comes out, whether it's a model run or a comparison with analog seasons from the past, is suggesting that this will be a significant event. So we're looking at temperature departures in the Pacific at the very top end of the range we see with El Niños. Now, that's not the whole story, because El Niño is a relative phenomenon. It's the relative temperature differential across the Pacific that drives the weather systems, not the absolute temperature. And at the moment, a lot of people are getting hung up on just the absolute numbers.
Yeah.
You've got to look at the relative pattern, and the rest of the Pacific is quite warm as well. New Zealand is surrounded by warmer than normal water at the moment. So even though that Central Pacific El Nino prediction is really at the top end, the relative spread is not perhaps quite as great as it might seem. That said, though, we're not talking about the El Nino we saw 3 years ago, 2023. We're probably talking at a minimum what we saw 2015, 2016. More likely, I think you've got to go back that sort of 97, 98, that sort of time frame, all right? And even further back into some of those El Nino events that we saw in the 1990s. Those were events that impacted the New Zealand economy. Those were events that caused stress and distress for farmers. And that's the type of thing you've got to plan for now, whilst we can still stay ahead of it.
Advice, talk to your grandparents or talk to someone my age to remember what 73, 72, 73,
Yep.
83, 84,
Yep.
87, 88, or was it 88, 89? Horrendous.
We had a run. We had a run
Yeah.
for about 20 years of quite a number of severe El Nino events. And it's certainly possible this coming one may be on a par with
So,
those.
as I've already said on the show once today, forewarned is forearmed.
Yes.
And helpfully, you've prepared a fantastic El Nino preparedness report,
Yes.
which listeners can buy
That's
or
right.
subscribe to
That's right.
Blue Skies.
Hop onto the Blue Skies website, blueskies.co.nz. You can either join up for the 6-week and seasonal outlooks, in which case you'll get a copy of that report.
Which are
It's
great.
free. Or you can just buy the report on its own. If you go to blueskies.co.nz/El Nino, there's a link to purchase that report. It's $24.95. And I tell you what, I've had 2 people feed back to me in the last week who've bought it and have decided to bring forward capital expenditure on their farm, one with a water reticulation system, one with an irrigation expansion to their irrigation system, on the basis of what they now know is coming.
Yeah. And it's going to, it's a really, really good report. Decisions early, one way or the other. The worst thing you can do is hold off, because when it comes to this, hope is not a strategy.
That's right.
Tony, appreciate your time as always, mate. We will catch up with you next week before we head off to field days, and we'll
Fantastic.
firm up our field days forecast. Well, by then, frosty and fine. Put the woolly socks in. We'll talk again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that is all we have time for on CountryWide Connect today. Really appreciate your time. We will be back with you same time, same place tomorrow.
CountryWide Connect, connecting farmers and growers to what they need to know to grow. Your daily innovative rural show with Andy Thompson and Sarah Miriam Lang.